Dear brothers and sisters, peace in the Lord. Today we continue our journey through the life of Jacob, a journey that will one day transform him into Israel, a prince with God. Our reading comes from Israel, A Prince with God by F.B. Meyer, chapter 5, titled The Noble Resolve. In this chapter, we follow Jacob as he moves through a critical moment in his spiritual education. It is a story of loss, conviction, revelation, and consecration. And as we walk with him, we will discover lessons for our own faith today. Part 1. Conviction of Sin. Jacob's journey begins not with strength, but with weakness. He had deceived his father Isaac, robbed his brother Esau of his blessing, and fled into the wilderness. He was alone, guilty, and fearful. Meyer reminds us that God's first work in Jacob's life was to reveal Jacob to himself. He might have lived comfortably in self-deception for years, but God, in his mercy, brought temptation, and Jacob gave in, only to be confronted with the ugliness in his own heart. Just as light in a cave exposes hidden creatures, the Spirit of God shines into our souls to reveal sins we never noticed before. As it says in Job chapter 42, verse 6, "I abhor myself and repent in dust and ashes." Lesson for us today. Perhaps you too have seen things in your heart that disturb you, thoughts, desires, or habits you never expected. Do not be discouraged. This is the Spirit's convicting work, the beginning of God's transforming grace. God never exposes sin to leave us in despair, but to prepare us for his healing. Part 2, stripped of all supports. But conviction was only the beginning. Jacob soon found himself utterly stripped of every support. No family beside him, no riches, no comfort. He carried only a staff in his hand and a cruse of oil. And one night, weary from his journey, he laid his head upon a stone for a pillow. Genesis chapter 28 verse 11 says, "He lighted upon a certain place, and tarried there all night because the sun was set. And he took of the stones of that place, and put them for his pillows, and lay down in that place to sleep." From comfort and security, Jacob was reduced to a stone pillow under the open sky. Lesson for us today. Sometimes God allows our earthly supports to be taken away, not to destroy us, but to teach us dependence on him alone. It is in the silence of loss that we begin to hear his still, small voice. Many of us only see God clearly when every other light has gone out. Part 3. Revelation of God's love. But at this lowest point came Jacob's greatest vision. As he slept, he dreamed. Genesis chapter 28, verse 12. "And he dreamed, and behold, a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven, and behold, the angels of God ascending and descending on it." This was no ordinary dream. It was a revelation of God's love, an unbroken link between heaven and earth, between a guilty man and a holy God. At the top of the ladder stood the Lord himself, declaring promises of his presence and blessing. Lesson for us today. Have you ever had a moment when God's love suddenly broke through your guilt, your fear, or your despair? When the cross of Christ stood before you, not as a distant story, but as God's ladder of love reaching into your life. That is what Jacob experienced that night, and it is what God offers each of us today. Part 4. A new awareness of God's presence. When Jacob awoke, he was overwhelmed. Genesis chapter 28, verse 16. "And Jacob awaked out of his sleep, and he said, 'Surely the Lord is in this place, and I knew it not.'" Verse 17 continues, "And he was afraid and said, 'How dreadful is this place! This is none other but the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven.'" Jacob realized that God was not confined to Isaac's tent or to holy altars. Even in a desolate wilderness, God was present. Lesson for us today. God is not only in our churches or prayer gatherings, he is present in our workplaces, our kitchens, our sick rooms, and even in the ordinary routines of life. When we live with hearts awakened to his presence, every place becomes holy ground. Part 5. Consecration and Resolve. Jacob responded to this revelation with a vow. Genesis chapter 28 verses 20 to 22. And Jacob vowed a vow, saying, If God will be with me, and will keep me in this way that I go, and will give me bread to eat and raiment to put on, so that I come again to my father's house in peace, then shall the Lord be my God, and this stone which I have set for a pillar shall be God's house. And of all that thou shalt give me, I will surely give the 10th unto thee. This was not bargaining with God, as some suppose. It was Jacob's noble resolve, his response of consecration. Having seen God's mercy, he resolved to give himself, his possessions, and his future entirely to the Lord. Lesson for us today: true love always leads to surrender. We cannot encounter the love of Christ at the cross and remain half-hearted. The only fitting response is to say, Lord, I am yours. All that I have is yours. Part 6. Joyful Journey. And so Jacob rose from that place with a lighter heart. Genesis chapter 29 verse 1 says, Then Jacob went on his journey and came into the land of the people of the east. The margin reads, He lifted up his feet. What a beautiful picture. The man who had lain down with fear and guilt now walked with lifted feet, light, free, joyful, because he had seen God's love and given himself to him. Lesson for us today: when we surrender to Christ, our burdens roll away. We walk forward not with heaviness but with joy. Our journey becomes a song because God himself walks with us. Dear friends, Jacob's night at Bethel teaches us 3 unforgettable lessons. First, God begins his work by convicting us of sin. Second, he often strips away false supports to teach us dependence. Third, he reveals his love, drawing us to surrender, consecration, and joy. May we, like Jacob, respond with a noble resolve, to give ourselves wholly to God, to live every day in his presence, and to walk with lifted feet on the journey ahead. This message comes from Israel, A Prince with God by F.B. Meyer, Chapter 5, The Noble Resolve. I warmly invite you to join us in reading this book together, 1 chapter a day, as we uncover the treasures of faith and obedience in Jacob's story. If this message has blessed you, please remember to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss the daily readings and reflections, and share this with a friend so that together we may grow in the knowledge of God's love. Until next time, may the Lord be with you, and may you walk with lifted feet knowing that He is your God.